Introducing the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya live stream and live chat. Do you have a question from any of the following areas? Land survey, valuation, building survey, land administration, engineering survey, estate agency, property management, and geospatial information management. Join the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya live stream and live chat every Friday p.m. to 4 p.m.
All right, guys, good afternoon. It's a nice afternoon that I'm happy to have you here wherever you are. I can see, guys, you're streaming in. Hujambo, karibu sana. Thank you so much. This is ISK Live Chat, a show that comes you every Friday from 2 at an hour like this one to around 4 or thereabout, where we are going to discuss various issues. Today, as usual, we have a brand new topic, a brand new guest who's going to give us a lot of information with regards to the implementation of AFREF. So wherever you are, thank you so much. We are happy to have you on board. My name is Franklin Fendo. I'm glad to have you on board to be your host today. Thank you wherever you are, wherever you're watching this show from, in any part of the globe. We are much happy and glad to have you on board. Karibu sana tuweze kujifunza. Now on that, allow me to bring on board our speaker, Bwana Martin Muremi. Martin, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too, Franklin.
Thank you. Welcome. So what have you prepared for us this afternoon?
Yes, today I want us to discuss about the implementation of AFREF in the region. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a very fascinating, as you're going to find out. It's a very fascinating topic. I think most people still don't have an idea what that is, but during this presentation, you should be able to understand what that is.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You have heard from the guest himself. He's ready. So much prepared, in fact, to ensure that you walk away with something that is going to help you as you strive in making advancement in your professional career. Thank you so much. We are happy to have you. Tell a friend to invite someone so that we can learn together. Remember, you can always ensure that you catch this show every Friday. And please, if you have a comment or a question, kindly ensure that you drop your comment right there. Thank you, Bwana Chamosile Bruno from Uganda, all the way. So much power. Thank you so much. Now, Bwana Martin, welcome on board, and kindly introduce yourself and take us through the topic. Kindly.
Thank you so much, Franklin. I really appreciate for this moment to share with us about the AFREF. It is a really fascinating topic, and I really want us so that we can be able to understand and see where we can come in and contribute. My name is Martin Muremi. I come from Maldi, and I'm happy to be the host today and discuss to you the implementation of AFREF in Africa. Now, first I will introduce the organizations that we are pairing with so that we can discuss this. I'll start by talking about RCMLD. You know, it was formed in the year 1975, and its part is the provision of geoinformation service, and the mission was to promote sustainable development through the generation and application and dissemination of the geoinformation and products in the member states. Now, it's very important to note that it is playing a key role in the implementation of AFREF in this region. Another very important organization which is actually our host today is the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. This is, as you well know, or maybe that you might know today, it's a professional organization in Kenya that brings together professionals in land and the real estate sector. So it has several major disciplines that cover the survey profession. We are talking of valuation, property management, land surveying, among others. That's the Institution of Survey of Kenya. Now, without wasting much time, I want now to discuss about what we mean by geodetic systems in the region. Now, as you can be able to see, this is currently what we have in the African region. So there are many geodetic reference systems as there are the countries. So you might find that countries have their own geodetic reference system. And in some situations, you have countries that have even more than one geodetic system. So they are working with several. For example, give a country like Kenya. We are having the Cassini coordinate system, and they have some other several coordinates that they work with within the boundaries of the country. Now, So you find that each country, it has its own origin, and it use that for coordinating its mapping, cadastral engineering, surveying, and other position-based applications. So that's the current situation in Africa. So we have there are various many in the country, many that is in the African region. Now we have a challenge. Now when we have system, it's good at a country level. Such an arrangement is good when each country has its own geodetic system. Now, but at a regional level, when we talk about now regional, we have a problem. Now, in that, it poses a challenge in terms that we have numerous datums. We are talking of ellipsoid and projections that we need to choose from. Again, there is confusion that arises amongst countries about the datum projections and what transformation to use where. And then you find that this all culminates that you have confusion and delays in what we call the cross-border project. For example, they can vary from mineral resource exploitation. We're talking of mapping project, even the transformation corridors. And I think we have some examples. For example, I think in Kenya, the country Kenya region, we are having what the SGR. We need to have a very contiguous mapping, our geodetic system that we can be able now to be able to, the railway system can be able to move seamlessly within the countries, especially in the East African region. Again, another challenge that we are facing with the different geodetic systems that each country poses is that sometimes you have the international borders confusion and the conflict. So it's one thing because again, one country has its own system. We have another country that its own another different system. So it's very important we harmonize that. Now, from apart from its increasing the misunderstanding and the conflicts from such a situation, it is very difficult for countries to share information and to work on maybe joint plans and the project. And I think in the regions you have initiatives that cut across the borders where we have countries doing a joint project. This they range from infrastructure project, example being even the pipeline project. So you find that again, to harmonize that, it becomes very difficult amongst countries. I think from the image you can be able to see, for example, that it looks like a very image that demonstrates what I mean here. We have one country from one end, we are having a railway that they are connecting railway maybe from two different directions, and then you find that there is a mismatch at where they're intersecting. So that is the problem that we are having in such a situation. Now, you notice in America, we have two maps. There is the edge matching. You notice the difference. The map on your right and the map on your left. One has a ROCO, which is the North American datum, the 27, and we have the WGS 84. Those are two different systems. But you notice that this is a global system, the WGS 84. But on this other side, on your right side, we have the North American datum, the ROCO that is written for the American region. So you find that there's a mismatch. Now, what would that bring can be demonstrated by this image. You can imagine when you're doing a construction project, sometimes can you heavy investment in such a project, and you have such kind of a mismatch. We have maybe doing, for example, we talk about building even the underground tunnels. I know that in Europe, we have such kind of project where they are doing tunneling, and they want to connect maybe using railway networks, know that. So you can imagine it's underground and it's a very heavy investment which have been done. And then we have a mismatch that, as you can see from the image there. So those are some of the challenges we are talking about. So in Africa, we need to come up with what now we are calling a seamless or a contiguous geodetic reference system. Now, you notice what will be the solution? We need to solution from a national level where we have each nation has its own geodetic reference system to a regional. We can still maintain our national, but again, we need to have a system that is regional that can cover, especially in this case, you're talking of Africa. So, and I think you can be able to see how we talk about. So, from a national system to a global system, that's what we need now. Again, you can be able to notice the non-uniform systems. That's non-uniform systems that exist, and then you have one continuous uniform system. That's what we need to solve the challenges, as we have mentioned, of having cross-boundary problems in terms of geodetic systems and even how to carry out our project. Now, it is important to notice that this one has already been implemented in some countries. We are having a reference system that are already working in some regions. For example, you have in Europe, you have what you call the AFREF. It is a common geodetic reference frame for Europe. Now, what are the main components? It has some operational centers. You have the local data centers. It has a regional data center, also a regional analysis center, and a network coordinator. Now, the UREF, it is operational, and in fact, it is contributing to the IGS service, where the data is contributing there, is being contributed there for scientific purposes and other reasons. Another one which is working in the South America, we also have what is known as the CIRGAS. It is the equivalent of the UREF, which was established actually in 1993, and it is working again. So you find that other regions, they are much ahead. When you talk about Africa, we are much behind. So we need again to really coordinate ourselves so that we can be able to develop our system that is really covering the whole of Africa. Now, there are some, this is not the first time we are talking about having a unified system in Africa. This is not the first time this one is coming, but in the past we had such kind of initiative. The first initiative that I can mention, there are several others, but I think I'll be discussing these two. The first one was the African Doppler Survey. This was started in the 1980s, so it was really initiated in 1982. So this one saw what basically it was, there are various organizations that are parties to that, and they implemented using the national mapping organizations in various countries to establish more or less, I think you might have seen them, they were put them in the mountains, the trigonometric stations. So they attempted to try to unify the geodetic datums in Africa, but it was not met. Now, the reason is that there were logistical problems. For example, in making simultaneous observations, that was not possible. Then again, the African countries did not understand the rationale behind that. So they lacked the motivation and the enthusiasm for the project. Another reason why it was not so successful is that the project was planned by the international community. There was very little input from the African countries. And then there were no set standard or observation procedures. So sometimes the data that was collected was of unacceptable standards. So those were some of the challenges that faced the first initiative to have a unified African geodetic system. So I think from there, the people who are in charge of that, there are some few lessons that they picked from there. And then that's when now there was initiative now to start the African Geodetic. The other initiative was to discuss the African Geodetic Reference Framework. So this one again was envisioned as a frame for Africa, and it would serve as a foundation for national and regional 3D reference network. So this one, it is anticipated because again it is still cooking. It is anticipated that they will be consistent and they will be homogeneous with ITRF standards. So much has been done, but when fully implemented, this system should consist of a permanent, what we call permanent GNSS stations that are continuous or non-continuous, so that whenever a user is anywhere in Africa within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, will have access to such data from those stations. Now, when fully implemented again, it will also provide us with a vertical datum, which will end in attempt to develop a precise African geoid. So when fully implemented, those are things that the AFREF will be able to achieve. Now, what were some of the objectives that were intended for the AFREF? So the first one is that it was to define. First, the objective number one was to define an African continental geodetic reference framework. So it is Africa, meaning it is covering the whole continent of Africa. That was the first objective. Number two, we needed to realize. It was to realize, when fully implemented, it was to realize a unified vertical datum. And talking about it's about the levels and the heights. A vertical datum that again will contribute to establishment of a precise African geoid model. Then another objectives that AFREF was to meet, it was to establish permanent GNSS stations so that we can have accessibility. Whatever people are within African continent, they can have access to GNSS data, and the products from these stations. Now, there is also another objectives that it was to meet. They were also to find the relationship that exists. For example, the different countries, they have their different reference frame. So we ought to compute or find the relationship between the current or the existing national reference frame with the international terrestrial reference frame, so that that information can be preserved. And in fact, when you need to do conversion of parameters, conversion of coordinates, it will be seamless. There would be more challenge on that. Another objective that the African Geodetic Reference Framework was to meet, it was again to provide, the project was to provide technology transfer across the continent in areas of GNSS and even ICT technology. So that was also another objective that the African Geodetic Reference Frame was to meet. Again, it was also to establish expertise in various countries. In terms of GNSS data, we talk about the operations analysis, and now we present the GNSS product within that will be acquired from these stations. So those are some of the objectives that the AFREF was to meet. And again, it is still happening. You see, I'm speaking in the past, but that's something which is ongoing. But as we are going on to find where we are at. Now, there were some principles that will be able to read this project. Now, when you notice that from the previous project, it failed because there were some things that it was really governed from an international level. Now, the approach was changed. So in this case, the AFREF was to be designed. Again, it was to be managed and it was to be implemented from within Africa. So again, it changed from the first effort, which was the ADOS, the Doppler project. Again, it was to be coordinated on a regional scale, and it was to be implemented at a national level. So various countries were to implement it, then coordination will be happening at a regional scale. And then finally, we want to seek the expertise and the support from the international geodetic community. That included the International Association of Geodesists and all that. So we want to seek technical expertise. But again, this was now to be spearheaded by African nations, so that at least they can take it in hand and be able to follow through with the project. Now, there were some proposed regions, implementation regions. There were proposed regions that to implement the project according to the United Nations Economic Blocks. The first one was the North Africa Reference Frame. So this was comprising of the Algeria, the Egypt, we have the Morocco, Tunisia. So these were the implementing regions. First one was the AFREF. The second region that was proposed was the South African Reference Frame, which included the countries like the Botswana, the Lesotho, you have the Malawi, South Africa, Eswatini, you have Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. The other one was the East Africa Reference Frame, which included the countries of Burundi, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Somalia, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. And then we have also the Central Africa Reference Frame for the Central Africa region, and we have the West Africa for the West African countries. That was the economic blocks that were to implement this project. Now, we have four stages on how they were to implement this project. The first strategy was to develop a network of operational GNSS station. So first, remember, again, this was to implement it at what? At a country level. So each country was to have its own GNSS stations. So which, again, should comply with the set out standard by the IGS, the International GNSS Service. So several stations to date have been established. Actually, some have not received the data of that, but you have several stations, private, non-governmental, intergovernmental organizations, and even governments. They have made some effort to work on this one. So you have operational GNSS stations that are covering most of the countries in Africa. Now, the second step was to densify those networks. So if we have an country by country implementation, again, we need to densify so that at least we can reduce the distance. Remember, the objective was first to make sure that a user within 1,000 kilometers would have access to the data. Now, the densification part was to improve that so that you can have now more stations country by country. So each individual countries were to carry out densification by establishing GNSS network. They could either be continuous or semi-continuous permanent GNSS stations. Now, this has been done, and I have some examples of some of the countries that have really made some attempt. Now, I can say that South Africa, it has a well-established network which is covering all over the country. Another country which has made a lot of effort is also Rwanda. Rwanda has made some effort. It also a network which is covering the country. Botswana is 75% covered. Most of the country has been covered with the GNSS. And then we have also private now, like the Trimble. This is an organization that has established its own regional network, where we have stations in South Africa, Namibia, you have Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Some of the countries, it has established the stations. The organization has established stations within those countries. And then you also, Uganda has also made effort. It has several course stations. And then another one is Survey of Kenya. We have the Ministry of Land. The Kenya also has made efforts. I know that currently there are 20 stations. They have not yet been fully launched because we are in the configuration phase. But Survey of Kenya now, it has around 20. The data that I've acquired, it's around 20 stations that can start operation anytime. But also to add to that is that we have also private and non-governmental organizations that have their own networks. To mention is that there are CMLDs owns some few stations, that is the GNSS, it has its own network. We also have another private organization known as the Measurement Systems. It also owns a GNSS network. We have Parastatos, like the Kenya Power, it owns around 10 stations. And then you have also private entities like the Oka Services, it also owns stations. So you can see most organizations, and there are some many more others that again you have not acquired data from, that they have stations within the country. Now, the implementation strategy number 3, it was now, after now we have established a very dense network of stations and they are making observations. The other strategy was now to compute a solution, was to compute now an AFREF solution. Now, this would we need some expertise, and this can come from geodesists, we have from a geophysicist, and those people, they are to assist us. We have the expertise from that. And again, there are some softwares that can be used to do the computations and the adjustment of coordinates, so that we can even, or you can have a Simulus, the reference system for Africa. Now that was the land implementation strategy. Now the final one was to develop now a geoidal model that is for the vertical lines for Africa. So it was establishment of a common vertical datum for the continent. Now this would now lead to the unification of national land leveling networks within the continent. Now, to mention that the geoidal model can learn with the first implementation strategy or the second. It can be implemented at any point in time during the process. But that was the 4th implementation strategy. Now, someone is wondering, why would we need that? Now, it's very important. As I've mentioned before, we have talked about the project that are cross-border. And we need to have a system where that we don't have mismatch. We need to have, if we are doing future, I know in the future that we have some very good project coming around infrastructure based. We have to have a seamless way that we can have our project interconnected, and we don't have errors. We have the geographical errors in terms of the location where they are located at. Again, the geoidal model would allow us for the vertical. You find that we can have one item. For example, we are doing a construction of a road somewhere. We are working at a particular elevation. So the good thing when you have a geoidal model that's covering the whole of Africa, we can be able to continue throughout with a particular heights or a particular vertical control. So if that's not there, then you find that we have a mismatch. You find that a particular elevation, the other one will be at a lower elevation and all that. So those are the four strategies that were modeled towards the implementation of the AFREF in Africa. Now, what's the progress so far? Now, it's to mention that the project was initiated in 2000, but again, it was signed now it was ratified or to start somewhere in Namibia. We have also in Addis Ababa. These are kind of the key meetings that we end for the inception of the project. So there have been workshops and the trainings that have been happening, and that has been happening. I know we have trainings that are happening every year in regional center. They've been carrying out trainings and workshops relating to the AFREF, training people on the various skills, on how to work with the products, how to establish the systems, on how to configure them and all that. So these workshops and training have been happening each year, except for the last year because of the COVID-19. Now, again, we have stations. We have more than 20. And I say more than 20, I believe that there are more. So the only thing that I've realized that most individuals or most these organizations that are established stations, they are not publishing their stations to the IGS, which is the International GNSS Service. So it's also another thing that we really need to look at. I know there is some procedures to that, but again, because I think these stations have been established in most parts of the continent, it is very important we publish these stations to the IGS service. Now, the other thing is, again, we ended the establishment of operational data center. That was happened in the year around 2009. We end the Hatrao one in South Africa. And this one, they established these operational data centers to process the data from the various. This was to process the data from the various permanent GNSS base stations. So by the year of 2015, there were around 65 stations. In 2015, when it was ending, there were around 65 stations in total that were contributing to the operational data centers. So on any given day, we end around 45 stations streaming. They were streaming the open data to the operational data center. That was by year 2015. So that's the progress so far. Again, much silence has been happening. There has been a lot of silence because maybe of this case of this pandemic. Again, we really need to work on this also to make sure that we implement this project. That is in terms of the progress. Now, the other important thing to note is there are concerns. We have some concerns in terms of funding. So now, various organizations are there to offer funding for the project to go on, but now the question will be, how do you access the funds? So it's one concern that really need to be taken care of. Again, there are various manufacturers, various vendors out there preparing this equipment, and we really need to understand how we can reach out to them so that they can make donations of the equipment. So that is one. The first concern is in terms of funding. The second one is what you're calling the political buy-in. So most African leaders still, they have not recognized the essence or the importance of the AFREF. So if we can have the African leaders be able to buy into it, then again they can be able to promote it, and you can be very far much ahead in terms of implementation of this project. Now the other concern is about the internet availability. Now we have in Africa, we are facing some challenges. Not all countries we have that accessibility to internet. Not all regions. Note that a GNSS station will require us to have some internet connection so that it can be able to transmit its data. Now that is missing. So accessibility in some regions, that is missing. But again, some countries, I'm happy because I was trying to look at some data and there is some much improvement in terms of the continent. There is more. There is a greater internet availability and accessibility. Also the speed, sometimes it's one thing. The speed of the internet, sometimes it's very poor and yet not so much reliable. Now, the other concern is about how the installation of stations is happening. Now, for example, we just report for a case in Kenya where we have, like in Nairobi. In Nairobi, we have several stations that have been at proximity of even less than a kilometer, 5 kilometers at the most. They are just installing them within one station. Yet, if there was close or good coordination, if it can be harmonized, we can have the stations evenly distributed within the countries and at a greater scale even within the continent. So that's also another very great concern which is happening. Most organizations, they are just concentrating them at one location. So we need to redistribute them, these stations, so that they can serve a greater and a wider area. Now, I'll be looking at some. When fully implemented, what are some of the applications? How can these AFREF, as much as we have the cross-border implementation of projects and all that, what are some of the products? Because from this project, we'll be able now to acquire this GNSS product. What will be some of the applications? And they vary. they can start from the non-critical to very highly critical areas of application. Now, one that used like every other day, that's location-based services. And these can include for tourist informations, talk about the games, the transportation and all that. So most people in these days, they are using these services. But again, if you have a system that is covering and which is very has been computed, which is very much accurate, we can have more improved in accuracy for the location-based services. Another area of application is civil. That can be done in the industry applications, road applications, aviations, and all that. So for example, in flying, if we have a very good systems, you'll have some very good network. And now we can control and the monitoring terms of flights, allow the move. Even the railway, how do you center? They can even reduce the accident that happens, centering the railway on the tracks and all that. So that's some of the civil applications of this project when fully implemented. Now the other one is the areas of land survey, talk about area survey, resource mapping and GIS. Another one is something in terms of the space applications. This is can be used in the precise orbital determination and also the satellite real-time navigation. We also have applications in areas of science, and that is earth sciences. Now, earth sciences can be used, for example, to monitor the tidal movement, the high and the low tides, can be used in meteorology. And I think this one is happening. This is also now a very, very interesting field which is really taking effect, where we have the GNSS signal because they are constantly being moving through the atmosphere. We can be able now to monitor the content of maybe water vapor in the atmosphere. If it is less, we can be able now to predict that maybe there is onset. If it has prolonged, you have the amount of content of whatever has prolonged for a long period of time, we can be able to predict that you're having a drought which is incoming. If we have more, we know maybe it might lead to France or something like that. So there are various applications that you can use with this kind of services. Again, in the military, we use this one for navigation and also for target acquisition. And also we have in autonomous. This is also another area which is gaining a lot of interest, and various companies actually are very much ahead with this, where they are working on autonomous driving, you have autonomous flying. This is happening. Various organizations that manufacture these vehicles, they are looking at these options. The good thing with autonomous driving, you find that we tended to eliminate human error. It's a thing that most countries are looking at into. And there are various, there are more. I cannot exhaust some of the applications such kind of project would really have to the users. It's very important to note. You find that also some other applications can be in terms even how you track the stock markets and even financial transactions. So it is something which is growing. So I would urge us, all the countries and all the stakeholders that we are in this, it is very important that we really adopt this and make sure that we implement it at even individual level. So someone might be wondering now, as it's something which is cross-cutting countries and all that, how do I contribute to that? Now, you can contribute to that by first being the product user. I know that today that people maybe are stuck with using maybe the old methods of positioning, where they are using maybe the conventional equipments for measurement. No, it's very important for us to be able now to start adopting these newer technologies or using the GNSS for observations. So you find that, for example, if you're working and we have the private providers who have these stations and they are giving us access. Some others actually they are free, others it's just at a very small cost. You connect to the network and then you can be able to do your survey everywhere. So I urge us, wherever we are at, let's start by first. We can start small where we are at, whatever area of influence you are at. You start by first integrating the use of GNSS product into your daily. And I think most of the countries, if not all, we have this working even at a private level. Then now, from there now, the various organizations which are in charge of all this project, now you can come there, compute now the products and be able now to launch this project for the good and the prosperity of Africa. Yes, so that will be all. I will thank you so much for giving me your attention. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Martin. Asante sana. Ladies and gentlemen, now that is it. Do you have anything that you have learned today? We'd like you to share with us, at least on the comment section, so that we get to know whatever that we have done today was so much beneficial to you. Thank you, Martin. But before we go to the question section, allow me to go through some of the comments that are coming on this section of the comment section. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now I can see one is called Chamulesire Bruno, is from Uganda. Thank you so much, Bruno. You're saying thank you for the presentation. Another one is Lucy Chepkos Gay. Lucy, you're saying, Martin, we are together live and clear. Thank you so much. There's another, before even I go to the question, Stella Ogutu, thank you so much. The other LCMLD, thank you. I can see that the team is watching. It's good. I have to appreciate that. Thank you. There's another one from Chamlesira, thank you so much. You're saying thank you for organizing this presentation. Shaban Mohammed, thank you so much. Wherever you're watching this show from, we are glad that you're on board, and we believe that at the end of the day, you'll walk away with something that is going to be very beneficial to your professional growth and career. Felix Orina, thank you so much. You're saying you're watching, and Robert Freeman Oraj, thank you. You're saying you're watching as well. Now, Hudson Bitoyo, thank you so much. I can see you. Hudson Bitoyo, you're saying you're tuned in. And Kevin Kemadi Mutwiri, thank you so much. Lawrence Getich, I can see you loud and clear. And Teresia Mutisia, you're saying that great presentation. We do appreciate your support wherever you're watching us from. Miss Teresa Hashim Majani, thank you so much. You're saying you're watching, and you're saying that the show is fantastic. Thank you so much. And Kimandi Nicholas, we can see you as well. Now, there are a couple of Joel Tete, thank you so much, and Zachary Maritim, all of you guys, Job Kagongo, we can see you, Gideon Yegon, and so many, Alice Allen, thank you so much. Now, let me go back to the questions, and I'll also encourage you, wherever you're watching us from, whichever part of the globe that you are in this afternoon. Here in Kenya is 2:47, so we'll be glad to get your comment. Now, Martin,
yes,
there are some questions that have been asked here on the. Allow me to broadcast some of the questions. Now, Chamsire Bruno is asking a question. Please kindly throw some light on the recommended transformation models for AFREF, if we have any, with the implementation of different models by different countries, different accuracies are obtained. Kindly, you can shed some light on that, Bana Martin.
So thanks so much for the question, Bruno. Now, it is, as I've mentioned in the presentation, is that this is happening in stages. So we end the strategy, we are first, we establish the stations. From there, after establishing the station, we densify the stations. And then once you have densified, we can now start doing the computations. For now, I know that they did more or less like a model in 2012. I've not got more information on that to test how it will work then. But I would be happy to share more on that, maybe when I get more information still on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Martin. There's a question that Chamulesira is asking, Bana Bruno is asking, on African geoid, allow me to project that one. Yes, there we go. On African geoid, how far are we on modeling? Some African countries, that is Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Mozambique, etc., are doing carbon graffiti survey for geoid modeling with support of ESA. Can we use the same data for African geoid? That is from Bana Bruno.
Thank you so much, Bruno. Now, the modeling, I think there is a project which is known as African Geoid Project, the AGP project. Now, this was to be integrated now in the AFREF. So I know it has been happening, although again, it is not come to be fully implemented. We have such a project which was happening, and we have all these kind of measurement for the geoid modeling. I think, thank you for this contribution that you can get this data, the same data for also for the African geoid. But I know that you have a project for that, the African Geoid Project. So what we just need to do is look at it. Then the fourth strategy that was said that we need to implement that we can integrate now them and see if we can work with the exist or we can improve on that model that has been done.
Thank you, Martin. There's another question. Allow me to present it there. Yes, from Mulindwa David. He's asking that AFREF realization has been in a total slump compared to other realizations. So as scientists, we need to take to those levels without relying on political and influence or funding from lobbyists. I think there's a comment that he had put there. Thank you so much for your comment, Mulindwa David. We really do appreciate. And there's another one from Stella Ogutu. Stella is saying, as you can read from the screen there, he's saying good presentation. Some of the challenges can be solved by involving the general public on personal level. If we teach the public what GNSS and COR is all about the same way, maybe we'll be willing to host and will be guaranteed on security, network, and electricity connections. Thank you, Stella, for your warmly contributions there. And then there's another viewer, Bwana Zachary Maritim. Thank you, Zachary, for your question. You're asking, and Martin, if you can read there with me, what are the risks and mitigations on Africanizing or globalizing geodetic network? Shall there be outages when superpowers are engaging in intelligence and counterintelligence activities? I'm imagining that by bringing GNSS station closer, here to military or accuracies are achieved in real time. Kindly contribute on that, Ben Martin.
Okay, it's a very good question actually. Now, the thing is, we have examples, and more or less, we have countries, we have actually the continents that really have this kind of system. And I think I mentioned about the Europe. We have the Europe and we have the other one for South Africa. Now, to them, there is some advantage. Maybe I don't know about the militarization and all that part, but what I know is about the good that you can get from it. There is a lot of projects that you can be able to do out of it without leaving the part where about the military, maybe risk and all that. But there's a good that you can be able to reap implementing such a project. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Martin. There's another comment from. Allow me to bring it on board. Yes, Mulindwa David. Mulindwa is saying that at FIG conferences, it's rare to have presentation on AFREF, and none of the surveyor generals from East Africa or Africa in general make mention of the progress of AFREF. RCMRD has got to prioritize this through member states. So you can hear there's a good suggestion, Bwana Mulindwa David. I believe RCMRD team, they are watching and they have taken note of your suggestion. Thank you so much. We had said Job Kagongo, thank you for we see you. Another person that we can see is She Lock. You're saying you're tuned in. Great presentation. Balozi Mash, thank you so much, sir. We can see you. And Josephine Sodo, thank you. Saying you're tuned from County 001, that is in Mombasa. Zachary Maritin, you're saying we share. Definitely. If you want these presentations, you can just do an email or write to an email at communication@isk.or.ke, and I will be gladly share the presentations with you. Surveyor Rono, thank you so much. You are saying that why is membership? I can't really get your question, Surveyor Rono. Kindly, you can also come again and clarify what you mean. Hudson Bitoyo, thank you so much. And Martin,
yes,
we are so happy that you graced us and you've taken us through the AFREF implementation in Africa. We are really so much happy that we have learned something. You're saying this is Hudson Bisoyo. You're saying thank you to Tumeshukuru sana. We much appreciate your time. Now, because of time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to remind you that this session normally takes place every Friday from 2 p.m. and we normally tackle different areas that are affecting landed professions. So should you be having any question that you think we can help, we can bring an expert to share on this, kindly, the email is that communication@isk.or.ke. Ensure that you drop your email there, and most definitely we'll have to get in touch with an expert who is going to provide more information to you. As the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, we are always on front foot to ensure that you get more knowledge with regards to the profession and also grow. Thank you. Thank you. We also say big thanks to our partners like the RCMRB. We so much appreciate the entire team that was behind the preparation for this team. We thank you so much wherever you're watching us from. We are much happy. Thank you, Lawrence Ngetich. And if you have any, maybe you need this one, you can just share like Lawrence Ngetich has done there, and we will be more than glad to ensure that you get what your request is. Now, Martin, what will be your parting shot, sir?
Yes, thank you so much for everyone who attended. Now, this we wanted to discuss and sensitize on each how everyone of us can be part of implementing this. I think I like one comment that even at an individual level, we can be part to implement this system. We don't have to rely maybe to some outside funding, some international support and all that. So we can work on having a very good system that can be good for the African continent, and this will rule to the African we want. Thanks so much, Franklin.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for every effort that you put to make sure this show is a success. We really do appreciate. On behalf of the entire ISK crew, I'm so glad, and I say asante sana. And dear viewers, wherever you are watching us from, we believe, and it's our sincere hope that we are walking our way out of this session with something, at least one, that can be very beneficial to your professional growth. Thank you so much. So remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are more content like this one, or that is an ISK, rather Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. That is our YouTube channel. Ensure you subscribe. Today's systems didn't work well. Normally, this show is shared on the two platforms, that is on YouTube and Facebook. So wherever you feel comfortable watching us from, we will be more than glad to have your company and comments as well. So ensure that you subscribe, ensure that you follow us so that at least you can get more information, usipitwe na uhondo. As well as you can ensure that you engage us on YouTube, on Twitter, that is ISK_Kenya. We are more than glad, or even on the website, you can go there, chat with us. We are more than glad to ensure that you get all the information that you are looking for. Remember, we are here for you, and we always strive to ensure that we put your interests forward. Thank you so much. Until next time, remember, next week we are not going to have our session. It will be on a weekend rather than a holiday. So wherever you are watching, we wish you the best of that holiday that is coming. Thank you so much. And we pray that we meet, inshallah, the other week after next Friday. Thank you so much. From here, we believe that you have learned a lot. Let's keep engaging, let's keep interacting, and let's keep learning. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Introducing the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya live stream and live chat. Do you have a question from any of the following areas? Land survey, valuation, building survey, land administration, engineering survey, estate agency, property management, and geospatial information management. Join the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya live stream and live chat every Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.